Hello, I'm Susan Bida, co-founder of eCareDiary.com, and we're filming live from the Family Caregiver Summit sponsored by Emblem Health. It's being conducted here at the New York Academy of Medicine in New York City, and I am very pleased to bring to you interviews with speakers and participants of the conference. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Marie Ellen Galasso, who is the Director of Social Services for Services Now for Adult Persons, otherwise known as SNAP. And she is also the co-chair of the New York Family Caregiver Coalition. Thank you so much for joining us, Marie.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us, what do you think are some of the most pressing issues that family caregivers are facing today?
I probably, would say that time management is the biggest issue. Trying to juggle family, trying to juggle work, and also trying to take care of a loved one, especially a senior. It becomes a big issue in terms of juggling.
Yeah, I would most certainly agree with that one. And so what are some of the supportive services that are available to caregivers or families going through this juggling process?
Mm-hmm. Well, here in New York City, thankfully, a lot of funding has come down from the Department for the Aging to community agencies to provide services for caregivers. And the services are really a combination of emotional support and concrete services, which means that maybe we can put in a home attendant just to kind of give a person a little bit of a break and walk away. So that would be a concrete service. But on top of it, we have support groups and educational workshops. And I think I can say, many of the programs have individual counseling just to kind of help people with all the dynamics that come up in caregiving, because it's an emotionally charged kind of a role. And we also have the New York City Family Caregiver Coalition, which really recognizes that there's such a huge diversity here in New York. I mean, New York is like no other place. And we've come to the table kind of looking at issues of New York City for caregivers.
I wanted to ask you about so the services that you offer to family caregivers, and I think it's wonderful that you offer counseling and one-on-one support. Do you find it sometimes difficult to get the family caregiver to come forward?
Right. So I think that what happens is people will call when they're really at their hardest point, and they'll say, I need somebody, I need a home attendant to come in, something concrete. And what happens is we step in and maybe we're able to give that support, that one concrete support, and a relationship begins to develop, and they start to realize that, oh, this is a legitimate place where you can help, and then they accept emotional support and so on. Sometimes what happens though is, how do you even identify as a caregiver? I mean, this is just what I always do, so oh, I'm a caregiver, you mean I should get support? That's something that I think it's on us to start to educate and let people know, yeah, you are, and there is support out there.
Yeah.
So.
And self-identification is half the battle.
Yes, I think that's one of the biggest barriers, that people don't identify as a caregiver. They think of a home attendant, instead of a family member or a loved one. And who is family in New York City?
Exactly. Now, you and I were talking about barriers for caregivers, that being one of them. Are there others?
I think that's probably the biggest. I think another thing is, what is self-care and what is selfishness? People juggle that, the self-care part, I actually need to take time and figure out how I can do that to get the support I need, and that's not selfish. So how am I going to do that? Becomes like a little guilty thing that, you play in your head when you're a caregiver.
And it's like we always hear about the oxygen mask, making sure you give it to yourself before giving it to the person you're caring for, because it helps.
The distance. Right. It lets you go the distance.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for
taking
the time to talk with me. And
thank you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you to our audience, and on with the next one.